Hello, hello, and welcome back to Shelf Talks, the podcast where we dive deep into the journeys of female founders bringing their product-based businesses to retail shelves. Today is going to be a solo episode. Coming off the heels of Expo West, I wanted to talk a little bit about trade shows and really the execution when it comes to connecting with retail buyers post-show. Trade shows like Expo West are really just the beginning of the retail relationship. The real opportunity often happens after the show. When buyers are back at their desks, we're unpacking all of those samples that we had to cram into our suitcase to get back home, reviewing the product, and really sitting back to understand what opportunities, newness, and innovation make sense for those retail shelves. So with that, thoughtful follow-up can be the difference between being forgotten and being a retail opportunity for you. So today we're discussing 5 strategic ways to follow up with retail buyers after a trade show that help founders like you stay memorable and move closer to getting on retail shelves. Number 1, sending a personalized follow-up within 48 hours. Retailers meet hundreds of brands during trade shows. A quick follow-up helps buyers to remember who you are and what product you brought to the table. Make sure that when you are doing that follow-up, that you are talking specifically to that buyer. This should not be a generic blanket email that goes to every retail buyer that came across your booth, right? You want to think about the conversation that you had or really spark their interest and make sure that that's included in that follow-up. For example, if you have a beauty brand and you're showcasing that brand and that specific retail buyer really loved, say, for example, your moisturizer, you're going to want to make sure you talk specifically about that. So it kind of clicks back in their head that, oh yeah, I remember that brand. And yeah, that moisturizer was so amazing. And that also just allows for more connectivity with you and that retail buyer. Another example of that could be that you have a barbecue sauce line. And during that trade show, the retail buyer specifically talked about a flavor that they've never seen before and don't currently have on those shelves. That's something you're going to want to put in your email to them. Because again, that's a great connection, a differentiator that sets you apart and brings back a reminder for the conversation that that buyer had. Buyers are talking to so many brands. So you got to make sure that when you're sending that email, that you're making sure that you're connecting back to who you are and what you represent. So with that follow-up, you want to make it short, but you want to make it impactful. So make sure that you're differentiating that email to that retail buyer. And then you want to talk about clear next steps in that email. I really enjoyed the conversation we had at the booth. Thank you for being so excited on flavor of jalapeno that I know it currently doesn't sit on your shelf, but for us is our number 2 SKU, and I know it will be valuable to your consumer base. Can we schedule a call to talk a little bit more about partnership opportunity? And that's where you leave it. Keep the email concise. Buyers really appreciate clarity, and make sure you have a call to action at the end so that you are now putting the onus on the buyer to respond in regards to next steps. If you don't get a response after that first time, that does not mean it's a no. Don't take one email with no response to a retail buyer as a no, because there are so many emails that come in. There are so many deliverables outside of retail partnership relationships that buyers encounter every single day. So honestly, you're going to have to make sure that you just continue to follow up. Set a calendar reminder. I'd probably say after 48 hours, coming back a week or 2 after that. If you still haven't got a response, then I would start following up monthly. And if that happens and you're not getting responses and you're following up with that monthly cadence, make sure that you're adding value in those emails. So it's not just, hey, following up, but it's, hey, I know we haven't got a chance to reconnect. Over the last 30 days, we've been able to enter another 30 retail markets. We've launched a new flavor that is now the number 1 SKU within the brand. So any sort of tidbits and additional information that can help a retail buyer reconnect to you and make decisions on partnership. Number 2, make sure that you are sharing the retail-ready assets buyers need to make decisions. You want to make sure you're attaching within that email that line sheet with your wholesale pricing, your product images so they can remember who you are, any ingredients or product specs that are necessary depending on your product and your category, your margins, and what I love the most, that pitch deck, which could incorporate all of those things. This really shows that you understand what retailer buyers need to make decisions and that they have all the information in front of them when they're making a decision on following up with you. Number 3, you want to reinforce your retail story. Retailers want brands that drive consumer demand and bring something unique to retail shelves. In your follow up, you need to remind them what problem your product solves, who your target customer is, why shoppers will pick your product off their shelves, and any proof points that you already have, any sales information that you currently have, whether you're on D2C and or in some other retail stores. You want to talk about what those sales look like. You want to talk about what marketing looks like, what press you've gotten, the community that you've built. That helps retail buyers in understanding and knowing that you have a community of people and you have sales that have performed to say that it's going to perform well in their store. Think of it as your quick retail pitch recap. Number 4, send a product sample. I know, you think, oh, they were at the trade show. They've already sampled my product. They already know what it is. Sometimes we forget because, again, there are hundreds of brands that we're sampling, tasting, and trying, and we haven't been able to bring all of those in our suitcase home. So make sure if a buyer has shown interest that you're sending a sample for them to re-engage with. A follow-up sample can really help move the conversation forward because, again, buyers are getting that product in their hands. They're, having a little bit more time, I would say as well, right? At trade shows, things are moving so fast. But if you deliver a product, a sample to their offices, it allows them to really sit with it, look at it, understand the packaging, see how it fits on shelf, kind of even imagine what it's going to look like on their retail shelves, and of course, provide any feedback necessary to really showcase your product in a meaningful way on retail shelves. Number 5 is making sure you're not only continuing the relationship via email, but you're continuing the relationship on LinkedIn. Retail relationships are really long-term. Connecting on LinkedIn really helps you stay visible without consistent email. So again, of course, you're going to want to follow up in that 48 hours, especially if you have that direct email for the retail buyer that you saw at the trade show. But if you don't get a response, having that connection on LinkedIn allows for buyers to consistently see you showing up, seeing the growth that's happening with the brand, and again, consistently thinking about whether it makes sense to bring into their retail stores. Even if you don't have that email address, make sure that you're connecting on LinkedIn. Make sure that with that, you're also showcasing on your LinkedIn platform all of the forward movement that the brand is having, telling your story, showcasing the retailers that you're in, showcasing your wins, right? Whether it's media, retail stores, the voice of your community. I definitely say as a retail buyer, I'm looking at LinkedIn all of the time. I'm accepting those invites from brands and really consistently looking on LinkedIn to see what they're doing and how they're performing and if they're popping up on my feed. Now, I will say I don't go specifically directly to that brand. That's why I think it's really important for you to consistently post and show up, because then when those buyers are going through their feed as they do and as we do, we'll naturally see you, right? And if we see that lots of times and we see continued growth, it's going to have us kind of continuously think about opportunities for partnership, relationship building, and having your product on retail shelves. When buyers see growth and traction in your brand, it builds confidence in your growth. And it makes them feel like, okay, if they're on our retail shelves, they're going to perform as equally or better as I see them performing on my feed. So those are the 5 strategic ways to really make sure that you're following up post that trade show after all of your hard work in making sure that your booth is perfect, transporting, packing up, taking down, coming back home and reflecting on, what just happened, making sure that follow-up, which is really the most important piece after all your hard work and money spent. I would love to hear how you follow up after a trade show and if any of these strategies have been helpful in you continuing the relationship and partnership with a retail buyer. Make sure you're following me on Instagram at Shelf Talks Podcast. I would love for you to comment on a post, message me through DM. I would love to know how your retail journey is going. Of course, follow the show so that you continuously get updates, tips, ideas, and strategies that are going to help you in feeling more confident in growing your brand, developing your retail strategy, and getting on more retail shelves.